Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Welcome to the iOS podcast. This is a highlights package of the show that aired today on the platform, 1 till 4. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan, War with you. Talking, of course, a lot of post-match reaction to the All Blacks 36 being named. Justin Marshall running his expert eye over that. Plus, 3 eyebrow raisers and 3 unlucky ones. Who were the guys that were sitting there thinking, really? Yeah, they got back in? And who were those that were thinking, why didn't they get in? US Open golf, tracking the whole of the final round with our man Graeme Agars. Matt Gunn being positive out of Twizel. Biff in the motorsport. Yeah, there was some league this weekend, but without the Warriors playing, all eyes on those Super Rugby semi-finals. Are the Blues the most disappointing New Zealand rugby side to ever play that competition? Probably a little harsh, but the way they played on Friday, probably not. But as always, we start tablets in hand. I say, gather my flock. It's time for a sermon. Let us go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
A negative man goes through the All Black squad. Glass half empty guy casts his knee-jerk eye over a whole lot of players who've done a whole lot of nothing. Look, I don't want to be that guy, but if I was that guy, if I was looking with an especially critical eye, this is how I rate the 36-man squad named yesterday. The newbies are all untried at test level and deserve their opportunities on Super Rugby form alone, so I will leave them alone. As for the incumbents, is this as good as it gets? Because we've seen these guys before. We've seen them lose in All Black jerseys before. We've seen it year after year. We've seen it over and over. We've seen it against many different opponents over the last couple of years. And what's changed? Apart from nothing. Since the disaster that was the 2019 World Cup semi-final humiliation by England, and let's not forget, let's never gloss over what a thrashing that was that day, we have lost 9 times. 9 separate times, 2 draws in the last 3 years. And do remember in 2020, we only played Argentina and Australia and lost to them both and drew with Australia. 9 times to 5 different opponents. Ireland, France, Aussie, Argentina, South Africa have all out-muscled us on separate occasions. Are they really scared of Offa and Nepo? Do they cringe with fear at that same loose forward trio? Hell no. Have these guys suddenly got so much better that the Islands, France, Yarpies, Poms of this world are now going to be rolled over by a rampaging All Black forward pack? Will they be carved up by an All Black backline featuring Caleb and Rico? Look, I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but when is the last time? Let's use those guys as an example. When is the last time you can honestly say, wow, what a game from Rico. Man, he was good today. Same for Caleb. Pick a game, any game from this year's Super Rugby, and tell me that either of those guys had even one standout performance this season. I'm waiting. I'll be waiting till the end of the year because it didn't happen. It's the same old, I'm afraid. Our playing stocks are just average. We got a squad of Super Rugby players, barely half a dozen out of the 36 would even come close, and that's come close to making a World 15. Not making a World 15. That might be in the discussion to make a World 15. We just aren't that good right now. Our players are not world beaters, and that is proven by our results over the last 3 years. No, it's not Ian Foster's fault. He can only select who's available. But when you ask, is this All Black squad as good as it gets? Well, sadly, and very sadly, the answer is yes.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
1:12 time. Well, that's my view on it, but that's only one person's view on it. I'd love to know yours. 5050 on the text. Are you wildly impressed with this All Blacks squad? Lachlan, news headlines before we go to Graeme Agars. And he can give us his expert eye on how these last few final holes are going to unfold and whether Wyndham Clark can keep his cool and win himself a major for the first time.
I have the leaderboard here with me. Martin, it's not hard to find. You can just go search it up yourself. But I was just, the importance of having the leaderboard, the live leaderboard with me right now. I just feel very empowered. So, through 15 holes, Wyndham Clark currently has a 2-stroke lead. He's ahead of Rory McIlroy.
Okay, you're one away. He's got a 3-shot lead, pal.
Well, are you sure?
Okay.
Is he 12 under now?
He's 12
well,
under
he's
now.
11 under according to the leaderboard.
Okay, well, look, you obviously haven't refreshed that page.
I just did.
And?
I just don't have the video up because I'm just too busy hard at work.
There you go.
Very hard at work. Okay, so Wyndham Clark is now 12 under par for the tournament through 16 holes. McIlroy 9 under through 16 as well. Scotty Scheffler through 16, 7 under. Ricky Fowler 7 under. So it is pretty much between Wyndham Clark and Rory McIlroy. Wyndham Clark's never won a major before, so this is, as Sir Alex Ferguson would say, squeaky bum time.
Squeaky bum time.
Very much squeaky
yes.
bum time. A pretty good tournament from Ryan Fox, who's started off in the first round pretty damn well. I think he was tied for 15th by the end of that first round. He's finished in a tie for 43rd, 5 over overall, 4 over today. A pretty poor second round, but he was a little bit better yesterday. But not a bad showing from Ryan Fox. If you can make the cut and finish inside the top 50 as he has at these tournaments, yeah, I mean, it's still something to savour, I think. All right, well, the All Blacks team was named yesterday, as was the All Blacks 15, but there was also another team named yesterday, the Samoan national side. They've picked their squad for some internationals coming up, and former All Blacks Charlie Faumuina, All Black, can I say World Cup winner Charlie Faumuina, Stephen Luatua, Lema Sopoaga have been named in a star-studded Samoan side. Like Tonga, Samoa have managed to capitalise on the newly relaxed eligibility laws that allowed the selection of players previously capped by other nations. So 3 big names that Samoa have at their disposal. The All Blacks 15 Chiefs halfback Brad Weber will headline a pretty strong squad. He missed out on a place in Ian Foster's Rugby Championship side. Weber is one of 9 players in the All Blacks 15 with test experience that will contest the Challenge Cup against Japan and a Japanese 15.
A what?
Yeah.
Sorry, is that a new trophy we've never heard of?
Apparently.
So Japan have got
Challenge Cup.
enough players to have a team and a 15, do they?
Well, apparently. Are they competitive? Who
Gee,
knows?
Thanks, Silver Lake. Wow. Creative new technologies, exciting new marketing opportunities, and we get a match against the second division Japan side.
The thing about this All Blacks 15, unlike the All Blacks 15 side that was named at the end of last year, this one very much feels like a B team.
I don't have a problem with this side being named. I have a problem with what it is named.
The 50, yeah, it should be a New Zealand.
Just a New Zealand
15 or a New Zealand A.
Yeah, why don't you
the
call
New
it
Zealand
that?
A. You don't call the New Zealand A cricket team the
Black Caps, do you?
11, do you?
No.
So, as well as Brad Weber, Aidan Ross, Asafo Aumua, Akira Ioane, Peter Gus Soakula, Brad Weber, Falau Whakatava, Stephen Petafeta, Brett Cameron and Jack Goodhue are in that All Blacks 15. Hoskins Satutu and Levi Aumua, omissions from the squad. I would have thought Aumua would be in that at least. Blues fullback Zahn Sullivan also unlucky. The Ashes first test started on Friday night. Friday was gorgeous. I just fell asleep in front of the Ashes and got woken up by the sound of wickets. It was wonderful. Australia's bowlers struck twice in quick succession in a pretty devastating spell against England at Edgbaston this morning before heavy rain washed out the latest sessions on day 3 of the first test. Play was abandoned around 5:15. That would have been local time following a lengthy rain-enforced break with England on 28 for 2, a lead of 35 runs. Australia had been bowled out for 386 in the morning session in reply to the host's first innings total of 393. Motorsport, Scott Dixon just missed out on a place on the podium at the IndyCar Grand Prix at Road America. He finished 4th. Fellow Kiwis, Scott McLaughlin and Marcus Armstrong finishing 8th and 24th respectively. Formula 1, Max Verstappen won. That's all that really matters. He's winning every single race, though he has tied the late Ayrton Senna for career victories. Red Bull won its 100th Formula 1 race, so there's some storylines attached to Verstappen's win, which is very rare these days. And finally, Wellington Blaze bowler Jess Kerr has been ruled out of the White Ferns' upcoming tour to Sri Lanka with a broken toe. She's being replaced by Blaze teammate Lee Kasprak. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin,
Oh my goodness me!
the platform.
Justin Marshall joins RS81 Test veteran for the All Blacks. He was there on the sideline as the Blues just pulled their own pants down on Friday night. Marshy, I don't know whether you're watching the golf, and I don't want to take you away from it from too much. If you are you following this final round?
Yeah, I am actually, and it's getting very, very interesting, isn't it, Dev? So there's going to be plenty more action after I get off the phone to you, so we're all good.
Okay, well, let's draw the parallel then with what you witnessed on Friday night before we get into the naming of the All Blacks yesterday, which is always a glorious occasion, of course, for everyone that gets their name called. Friday night, the Crusaders went out there wanting to win the game. I thought the Blues turned up thinking they were playing a semi-final. What did you see?
Well, look, I just saw 2 completely different sides, really, and that wasn't what I was expecting. I thought at the very, very best the Crusaders would have to be to beat this Blues outfit, and even then, I wasn't sure with the injuries that they had if the Blues turned up with the right attitude and were game on, whether or not the Crusaders would even still have the firepower. Their belief in the fact that they can win knockout football in finals time was the major factor that I think that was going to help them. But apart from that, it was going to be a tough old day. Well, it didn't prove to be that way. It completely surprised me. It threw me, to be honest. I thought the Crusaders started like a bull out of a gate, like you'd expect. But then I thought, righto, they've had their moment. There'll be a response from the Blues. They will get themselves back into this game somehow. But they never, ever fought themselves back into the game. Not either mentally, not physically, not skill set, not defensively. They were completely outplayed, outclassed. It was men against boys stuff.
And so much to come from that. Okay, I'm just looking at some really basic things here, like obviously contact, breakdown, desire, and I just thought the Blues looked completely unprepared. Justin, they knew this was coming. They played the final against the Crusaders last year, and the same thing happened, but this one was on roids. I mean, this is a Crusaders side that were going to smack them up in the first 5 minutes. And, I'm looking at that outside in defence, which you were explaining. We only got to see a couple of pictures of that. But surely when, you're in the back line, you've got enough experience there. If you're doing outside in defence, that means there's obviously a gap over there. There's some grass. Why don't you chip it? Why doesn't somebody do a 25-metre spiral? There's got to be some room out there somewhere. Why weren't they looking for it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think probably the realisation of that hit me mostly, not only during the game, because I could see it when I was commentating on it and wondering why they were continually falling into the trap and they weren't responding, but massively when I spoke to Leon McDonald after the game, when I did ask him that question, and he just said everything that we were expecting the Crusaders to do, they did. Everything that we knew we'd have to respond to, we didn't. And he said, I can't put my finger on why not. No, mentally we knew they'd come at good body height. We knew they'd attack the breakdown. They'd play with tempo. They'd be aggressive on defence. We knew all of those things were coming at us. But the players, he didn't say it, but you could see him saying, we prepared for all of this. You as players have been given that preparation. Now when you're out there, you know that it's coming. You need to galvanise and you need to get it right out there, and you mentally need to be in the right space. And he couldn't understand it. You could see the look of bemusement on his face of, there's nothing there they threw at us we didn't know was coming, which goes back to the question you asked. So why did, with 9 All Blacks, nine All Blacks in that team, been in World Cup finals, been in big matches, been in Rugby Championship and Bledisloe games, where everything is on the line, you've got to respond, and they didn't. And I don't know what's wrong with that group of players that went out there that day, but they were off and they got up against a side that were on big time.
And you see, I then start looking at the All Blacks squad and the naming of that team to play Rugby Championship, and obviously a lot of these same names are going to be in the World Cup squad at the end of the year. That was an All Black trial to me. If that's not an All Black trial, I don't know what is, because playing the Force and the Rebels isn't. Playing a knockout semi-final against your major opponents in a must-win match, that's as close as you get to a test match, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. And you've got everything to prove to the All Black coach who was sitting in the stand and his other coaches to show that come big game time, you're ready to front, and you do front. You go out there, you lead. And you look at, conversely, the opposition, and you're opposite, and you make sure that you keep them controlled, you keep them contained, and they don't go out there and steal a possible shirt that you could start in later in the year for the All Blacks. And I certainly felt that when you looked at some of the performances of those Crusaders players that needed to stand up and front up in key positions, they all did. They were flawless in doing that, whereas, it took, I guess, probably a bit of interchanging from the bench from Leon McDonald, probably in the last quarter of the match when Peter Fenter came on, took a little bit of pressure off Barrett. They started to get a little bit more flow there. Clean got a bit better, but the game was way gone by then. The responsibility of looking after that game so that your bench then finish it off is up to that starting 15. And that starting 15 with that many All Blacks in it, you'd have to say, bloody not good enough, not acceptable.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Graeme Agars is back with us. Graeme, he did it. He closed it. How pleased are you for this young man, Wyndham Clark?
Yeah, no, it's a good story, really, isn't it? He only broke through for his first win on the PGA Tour 6 weeks ago, and now here he is with the renewed confidence that came from that victory. taking out the US Open, his national championship, and he did it in style when you think about it. He did lead by 3 shots with 4 holes to go, but dropped a couple of shots coming in. But I have to say, calmly 2-putted from 60 feet on the last hole to post a 1-shot victory over guess who? Rory McIlroy, who still can't snap this 9-year drought of winning majors.
You've been around golf for as long as you've been around the tennis, mate. So you've seen guys get to that position and nail it. You've seen guys get to that position and absolutely choke it. Can you tell, Graeme, with a guy walking into the 17th or up the 18th or whether, can you tell whether he's going to be able to do this or not?
Well, I think the key thing was John Ellis, his caddy, was a former tour player and in fact played in 2 US Opens. And he did a fantastic job of keeping Wyndham in his routine. Didn't allow him to speed up walking down the fairway, didn't allow him to rush a shot. And on every green, they have this very strange routine they go through before he putts. He lines up over the ball and his caddy lines up directly behind him.
Yeah.
And they read the line together. Now, he can't putt like that. He'll incur a penalty. So what has to happen is the caddy has to step away and Clark has to step away and then reset and go. This is to prevent the caddies, from basically doing the putting work for the players. So I think all credit goes to John Ellis and all credit goes to Clark for taking the confidence of his first PGA Tour win 6 weeks ago. And I think I mentioned last time, in his interview after that victory, he said, this now proves to me I can play with the top guys and win big events. And 6 weeks later, he delivered. So hats off to him. He's now a US Open champion. That'll never be taken away. It opens doors all over the place for him going forward. 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour, not that he needs it at the moment. It will get him into the British Open, the Masters and the PGA, I think, for a period of 5 years. And he's now set as a professional golfer, so he can set schedules that suit him and, work out which events are best for him to play.
Graeme, do you only have to win one of these things? I'll ask the same question about a Grand Slam in tennis. Do you only have to climb the mountain once?
Well, you're in an exclusive club if you win one of the 4 majors. It's as simple as that. Now, Nicklaus won 18, Tiger Woods won 15. Brooks Koepka's already got 5. Rory McIlroy's got 4. You join a rarer club as, you put them in the bank, but you can live forever off a major win. Ask any golfer in the world, would he turn down one of the 4 majors and if that was the only major he won? And the answer would be no, they'd take it in a heartbeat. So it puts you in a very exclusive club. And for the Americans to win a US Open, their national Open, is the biggest of them all as far as they're concerned.
Did you like the way that the course played, and was it a true US Open to you? And look, I'll just give you some figures. 37/29/19. I don't know what it was today, but 37 under par first round. That cut to 29 after the second round, 19 after the third round. So you can see what the US PGA was trying to do.
Yeah, the USGA.
UGA.
You're quite... Yeah, sorry, they'd get offended. I like the USGA at the moment. They're doing a good job. But here's the thing. There were people criticising the course for its kind of funky layout, but it had been rebuilt back to how it was designed, almost 100 years ago, obviously with extra lengths added. They made the fairways much wider than they normally make at a traditional US Open, up to, I think, 61 yards wide in the case of the 18th fairway. So it was a different look. But the US Open always comes down to 2 things, holding your nerve and dealing with rock-hard, very, very fast greens under pressure. And they certainly had that today. If you look at McIlroy, Scheffler and Wyndham Clark today, they all shot even past 70s at the business end of the US Open. So I think the course held up at the business end of the championship, and I love the different look, and I love the fact that it was on the West Coast in Los Angeles for only the second time as the US Open played in LA, which is remarkable considering it's America's second biggest city. So I give it a big thumbs up. And personally, I just loved the golf course. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tide 5.
5 Super Sporting topics in about 60 seconds, there or thereabouts on each of these. And when the bell dings, so do we go on to the next topic. The All Blacks 15. What a load of pony. Do you believe in this concept? Or is it just the name that offends like it does offend me? The All Black squad, your biggest surprises from that. I want 3 eyebrow raisers and 3 head shakers, okay? 3 eyebrow raisers, 3 head shakers. Is there a result in this first Ashes test? England lead by 35, 8 wickets in hand, 2 days left to play. Will Power's comments and the golf. Let us kick it off with the All Blacks 15. I've had a bit of a Twitter war over this today. I don't mind the selection of the side. I despise the name that it has been given. It is a marketing gimmick and it dilutes the brand. And I hate calling the All Blacks a brand, but the All Blacks are the All Blacks are the All Blacks. There is no Sevens All Blacks. There is no Māori All Blacks. There is no Women's All Blacks. There is no All Blacks 15. The All Blacks are the All Blacks. Isolate, separate. Why don't we call this the New Zealand 15? Why? Because New Zealand Rugby sold the name of the All Blacks, is what they did. They sold them to Ultrad. They sold them to the AIG sponsors before that. That is why the All Blacks go and play these meaningless test matches in Chicago and things. That is why we now have an All Blacks 15 side that plays at the same time as the All Blacks play. You remember this last year. World headlines. You don't have to Google very far to find All Blacks lose to Barbarians. No, we didn't. That team lost to the Barbarians and are not the All Blacks. This is what I know. The marketing department and the creative news synergies, exciting new opportunities and technologies. Is this what you're giving us, Silver Lake? Because if that's the case, F off, mate.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Tell me one good reason. Because you got paid New Zealand Rugby. We'll get paid another way. Because the All Blacks brand is worth more if it's the All Blacks and only the All Blacks. Do you know nothing about marketing and branding?
Yeah, totally agree with you. I got nothing to say.
Yeah.
I hate the fact they use that. As you say, it dilutes the brand of the All Blacks. These guys aren't All Blacks players.
No.
And the rest of the world will view them
That's it.
as All Blacks,
That's
which
it.
is frustrating.
It is. There are still a few honest players, and I can't remember who we were talking to. We were actually talking to a player, it was only months ago, it'll come to my mind, you might recall, who had actually said to us he was embarrassed. He kept getting called an All Black in the overseas press. I think he was playing in Ireland, and he kept getting called, they kept referring to him as, and he wasn't, and he kept maintaining, I'm not an All Black. I've never been selected for...
Oh, that's right.
Who was that? I'll tell you who it was. Was it Brad Shields before he played? Oh, okay.
Yes, in French media.
In French media.
Yes, when he was playing there, they were referring to him as an All Black.
That's who it was, yeah. He said, no, I'm not. Stop calling me that.
I'm just a New Zealand rugby player, but I'm not an All Black.
Is this All Black squad going to win the World Cup?
No.
Let me rephrase the question. Do they have a chance?
I'll rephrase my answer. Well, that's a different question. Well, they have a chance, but they won't win.
Tell me what is different about the names. These are the same players that have failed year after year after year. I'm looking at the side
You just answered the question. The same players that have failed
year after year. And look, how close are we? I'll ask Jamie all about this shortly. How close are we to, say, losing to Argentina in the opening match of the Rugby Championship and then all the same crap coming back into Ian Foster's lap again? He can only select who is in front of him. This is as good as it gets, New Zealand. And most of these players aren't international quality players. Most of our guys are not going to be picked up by other rugby teams around the world. If they could, cherry pick our World Cup squad. I'd like him. Most of that 36 aren't in the conversation. They've tried before. They've failed before. They've been monstered before. They've been moosed before. So tell me what is different about this lot. I mean, that's why I'm pessimistic. That's the only reason I'm pessimistic. Give me 3 eyebrow raisers from that squad, in your opinion.
I got 4.
Okay.
And I got... Do you want 4 or 3?
Give me 4.
Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't deserve a shot, especially if they're a debutant. Only one of these guys is a debutant, and that's Sama Penifina. It's not to say that he doesn't deserve a shot. It's just purely that I think there are other loose forwards who are a bit more deserving. But he's had a great year. Good on him. And he's got an opportunity. Go kill it.
Okay.
But that's an eyebrow raiser for me. Finlay Christie. Shannon Frizzell, Nepalala. Those are my 4.
I've got Coles. You can't take Dane Coles to a World Cup. Much as I love him as a player.
This isn't a World Cup squad. This isn't a World Cup squad. This is the
It's
Rugby
not going to
Championship
dramatically
squad.
change.
Well, it might.
Apart from the guys that are coming back from injury, okay? And what hooker is out there that's coming back from injury
I've
to
always
take his
thought
spot?
Safo Moore.
Well, I would have thought I would have named him. Yeah, look, if you're naming this squad, to me, you can't put anyone in this squad that is not capable of going to the World Cup and representing us there. And Dane Coles would be a liability at the World Cup. His niggle is great in Super Rugby. I love it. But 10 minutes in the bin and conceding penalties in a World Cup semi-final or a World Cup quarter-final is just dumb. The 2 props.
Yeah, but he won't be playing.
2 props.
That's the thing.
Nepo and Ufa. Great servants to New Zealand rugby, but you've been tried and you've failed before. You were both there in 2019. It didn't work. Ball playing props, that doesn't work. Caleb and Rico, another couple. When's the last time either of those guys you can genuinely say had a great game?
Well, hold up. You can't not have Rico Yuan in the All Blacks.
Oh, okay, this is the quandary we find ourselves in, isn't it? Really? That's as good as it gets at centre for the All Blacks? Well, start playing better, mate. Start being the guy that we think you can be or that you think you can be, because what did you show on Friday night apart from 0? And the Super Rugby season, what have you shown? Nothing. I can't remember. I'm so frustrated. I can't remember. All right, give me 3 that should have gone. Stevenson's one of them, right? I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, but he's in the training squad.
So he might
makes
still make
sense.
it for the World
Yeah,
Cup.
I think with Talia injured, I wonder if Talia was healthy, I wonder if they actually don't pick Narawa and do pick Stevenson. I wonder if they've picked Narawa, Mori Narawa, because there is a like-for-like right-wing replacement there if they need. Whereas Stevenson is very similar to Will Jordan, where his best position is fullback, he can play on the wing. So, I would say Stevenson, but also, I mean, he's in the wider training squad, and if he trains well enough, sure.
2 more names.
Well, I've got 3. Well, who are you next to?
Weber. I would have thrown him in there.
Yes, I would have had him in for Finlay
Given
Christie.
that Finlay Christie had his worst game of the season and the game that he had to play the best.
Yeah.
Okay? And he just didn't front up at all like most of the Blues didn't. I would have actually axed most of those Blues players from this squad and given them a hell of a warning and a kick up the butt.
forwards, bar Papali'i. I wouldn't have any of those forwards in there.
And Peter Gus, I would have probably put him at number 6 and given him a second chance.
Yeah, I would
Not,
have had-
not,
I would- I
no
would have had-
disrespect to Fino as well.
Yeah, I would have had Peter Gus over Summer Penny. I would have. This is a guy who statistically has been the best open side flanker in New Zealand the last 2 years in Super Rugby, Tom Christie. But he's not even in the 15, I don't think, the All Blacks 15. Okay, he could be wrong. He could be in there. Tom Christie deserves a shot. I've long loved Ollie Jaeger.
Same.
Now, his only problem is that he hasn't played a lot this year. But, I mean, Braden Ennor hasn't either, and he's in the
Tell
team.
you what, Nepo, Offa, you can honestly,
Get Ollie Jaeger
you
in
should
there.
have fingers and toes crossed. I would take either.
What's the deal with Levi Almoa, by the way?
both you again. I don't know.
Because he's not even in the 15, but he's not in the Samoa squad, and he's Samoan, isn't he? Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's be positive. Just stop right there. No negativity. Let's be positive. LBP. Let's be positive.
Gunny, let's be positive. It's very hard to be positive when it's this goddamn cold.
Oh, we've had nearly 2 weeks of constant fog and hoarfrost now, Martin. I'm suffering from SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, yes.
It's the time of year where depression and low moods kick in because you never see the sun and it's freezing cold and everybody tells you how good the hoarfrost photos look on social media, but they don't live here.
Right.
You know, when you start at -5, you get up, it's -5 or 6, and by the end of the day, you still haven't made 0. You get SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And if you don't perfect the spooning technique
Yes.
over winter, you don't get any sleep.
Yeah, but hang on
either.
a second. Hang on. The spooning technique is also directly and fundamentally a part of whether or not there is moods that are welcoming and encompassing around the spoon technique.
You cannot argue over winter down here, otherwise you don't end up in the spoon.
Right, okay.
If you can't spoon, you don't sleep.
You don't
so
sleep.
You have to be nice to each other all winter, which actually adds to sad. That adds to the disorder, because what man and wife cannot have a bit of an argument at some stage over a 3-month period of the year? I don't know how I make it through, to be honest.
If I was to moan, and I was to bring up something that deserves a damn good shellacking, but let's be positive about the Blues, shall we? Because they had a good season, Matt. They made the semi-finals, as their captain told us on Saturday. Yeah, they really overachieved this season, that team.
There's nothing like making a semi-final and thinking you've had a great season, isn't it? And being beaten 52-15, showing nothing. Showing absolutely nothing. You know, look... And you know that this is extremely difficult for many of us to say, but how do the Crusaders continue to do it? You messaged me, what about the Blues? They never show up when it counts,
no.
And you're dead right. But the other side of that coin is the Crusaders, they always show up when it counts, regardless of what's gone on through the year. It doesn't matter. And they were just magnificent again. 52 points on the Blues in a semi-final in a year where there's only been 4 good teams and one of them gets flogged like that. It's embarrassing for the Blues. It must be.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Let's now go to Ian Foster yesterday. As part of the breakdown program on Sky. A good bit of theatre and a good bit of pomp and a good bit of pageantry. Jeff Wilson attempted to do the Phil Gould at the start. Yeah. There was kind of a little lame-ish. But hey, I mean, at least they're trying. They're trying to make it a show, and it should be a show because this is kind of the closest we get to a draft day or something like that. I mean, the naming of the All Black squad is one of the biggest events in New Zealand sporting calendar year after year, isn't it? So you've got a bit of a drum roll and a brass band. You want a little bit of sexing it up and zhuzhing it up, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, so good on you, Sky, for giving it a go. I mean, I'd have a review meeting after it and be honest about what worked and what didn't.
Make sure he ticked all the boxes.
Hoskins Sotutu and Akira Ioane. Those are the two. Because there is no way in hell, after watching what you saw on Friday night, that those guys are anywhere near an All Black forward pack in any meaningful match from this time on.
So one of them would have gone out and some opinion probably went in, right?
That's exactly it. I think that Akira goes, and he went down to the
Akira's in the
New Zealand 15, and I think
Hoskins isn't.
No, mate.
So it must have been Akira then.
Yeah. Look, as far as that All Black forward pack, the Blues forward pack went, I'm sorry, Dalton Papali'i, at least he carried it with some strength and showed some aggression in that. But what the hell are you doing out there in Mark Tallia's position, mate? When your forwards are getting monstered over here in the middle, seagulling on the wing. We can't have guys like that in an All Black jersey in a knockout World Cup match. It doesn't work. England pulled our panties down in Tokyo and embarrassed us. What, have we got short memories on this? 4 years ago, I was there in Tokyo. They just picked it up and ran through us. And since that time, every team that has played the All Blacks has done the same thing. They have attacked us up front, haven't they? Because we are, what we're perceived as is weak up front. Our vulnerability is in our forward pack. That's what other teams are doing, looking, and on the field showing, like Ireland did last year. They didn't need to throw it willy-nilly. How did they attack us? They just muscled up, didn't they? They confronted us is what they did.
Yeah, but I remember in that.
And our ball-playing props are really good Super Rugby players, but when it comes to doing whatever it is that you need to do as a prop in a test match, and don't ask me, because I'm just sitting there looking on the sideline, talking about dark arts and wondering what the hell goes on in there. But whatever it is, you guys aren't doing it. And the opposition know it. And it's costing us. So I think Sotutu, who, look, I got a lot of time for this guy. I've always thought, heck, he could be the next one. But you've just proved time and time again that you don't have it when it counts. But I could point the same finger at Shannon Frizzell, who plays well every other fourth or fifth game for the All Blacks. We need you guys to get consistent. Mate, I look at this All Black side, and I hate to say it, but I draw the parallel with my beloved Manchester United side, right? And if we start another season, Lachlan, with Melonhead at the back, Fatty Pants at left back, McFred in the midfield, Sancho up front. I'm going, how many years does it take to get through that you don't have it? Yeah, great. You're brilliant when we play Burnley at home in the League Cup and you can kick their butt. Brilliant. That's not where we need you to tough up. We need you to go to Anfield and not be embarrassed 7-0. We need you to go to Christchurch for a semi-final and not get smacked by 50 points, because that's the measure of you. And there's nothing wrong with only being good enough to play Super Rugby. It's a lifestyle. Great, you get well paid. But start telling your agent to get you a contract overseas, because if you want to earn some cash, it's not going to come from playing for the All Blacks. Because, how do I say this nicely? You're not friggin' good enough. Are we allowed to say that anymore in New Zealand? Is that bullying? Is the coach allowed to turn around and say, you're a flat track bully, son? You know? This is the game I wanted to see you play, and look at what you did. You ran away like a timid little, whatever timid littles are. You know what I mean? It seems pretty bloody obvious, doesn't it? We all had the same thoughts last year. We all watched exactly the same games last year. We all saw exactly the same things last year. And now exactly the same players are back to do it again this year. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, it's up to the players. You can't tell me right now that you can blame Ian Foster for selecting those players. That's all that's available to him. Is he going to coach that team so much differently? Those same players who failed consistently for the last 3 or 4 years, is he going to coach that team completely differently and get them to win a World Cup? Well, that's the question we don't know the answer to. That's Ian Foster, and that was on Sky Sports Breakdown last night when the All Blacks squad got announced, as well as the New Zealand 15 squad. We're not calling it the All Blacks 15 on this radio program, people. Text to come in. Hi, guys. I always remember Zinzan Brook. Always kind of average week in, week out for Auckland, but come finals or All Black games, man, he could take it to another level. Same as Frank Bunce. Same as Ma'a. Remember when Ma'a Nonu went from the Hurricanes and he played for the Highlanders? He was just hopeless down there, and he came up to the Blues and he was half average. But he had already proved himself as an All Black at that stage, the same as Zinzan Brook had already proved himself as an All Black. We knew what those guys could do in an All Black jersey, all three of them. It's a bit different when you haven't established yourself as a hard-ass test player. So, I'm all for guys who are at that level already if you don't actually, bring it week in, week out in Super Rugby, because we already know. But the problem that we have at the moment is so many of our guys aren't proving themselves at international level. The big bully boys at Super Rugby level, that's great. Kick the force. Roll the Rebels down the street. Win 65-30 at Eden Park. Put it on your Instagram afterwards. Flames coming out of your boots. And then what happens when South Africa is standing on the other side? Meow. Or the Crusaders? Meow. That's what we saw.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
I'm the glass half empty guy, looking at an All Black squad which is just full of names of guys that didn't do it last year or the year before that. Jamie Wall is going to be glass half full. He's the most trusted independent journalist in this country. He's going to explain why I should feel better ahead of the World Cup.
Well, as a New Zealand rugby follower, it's somewhat challenging to be a glass half full guy, but I'll give it a go.
Go on.
I think that the players are the best available. I don't think there's, apart from the big debate about Sean Stevenson being left out, that you can't have too many complaints about who's been picked. I think Brad Weber's probably got a case to be pushed. But again, you got to remember that this is for the Rugby Championship. A lot of things can change between now and the team that goes to the World Cup. And I think that if you take the top 15 who are all fully fit, who'll take the field in a meaningful test match, it's a pretty good team. So and a lot of those guys are in form and are in form at the right times. So I think that as long as they can make the certain types of adjustments needed to be able to take on the likes of South Africa and Ireland and to go deep in this World Cup, then I could see them winning it.
Okay, a couple of things. We haven't been able to play 2 decent test matches in a row since I can't remember when. I mean, it might actually be prior to even going to Japan in the last World Cup. Also, a lot of these same players are the same players that have lost consistently to our bigger opponents over the last few years. Are you saying that they are actually better than they were last year, this team? They lost 4 games last year. They drew against England, just about bottled it against Australia, remember, in Melbourne as well. Essentially, the same names are there.
Well, I hope they're better. A lot of them seem to be looking like they're playing better, as evidenced on Super Rugby. I think you're being a little bit harsh on the saying that they've been that inconsistent, because if you look at last year's season, yes, it was a bad one, very bad one by all those standards, but it was very much a season of 2 halves. After that really bad loss against Argentina in Christchurch, the All Blacks did win out right up until the last 10 minutes of that game in Twickenham, in a lot of varying circumstances. Yes, not all of them were like crushing victories, but there were some very good performances, and I think that the tour at the end of the year, where they managed to put away a potentially tricky game against Japan with like an All Black C team. They crushed Wales, and then they got over a pretty decent Scottish team at home who were fired up about trying to get their first one against the All Blacks. So, I mean, there's 3 in a row there. And it would have been 4 had they not just gone to sleep against England in that last 10 minutes. So, I mean, it's kind of like almost there. But like I said before, it's whether they can make those adjustments to really take it to the next level and be that dominant force leading into the World Cup, because I think that it's really going to depend on like the wave of momentum that they've taken with them.
So the same players, essentially, same coaching staff as well as what we saw last year. And we know what happened last year when things started to go wrong. And we saw that, you know, the sheer weight of public debate and everything that turned on the coach especially. What is going to be different this year if similar circumstances happen again? Because in Foster's defence here, he can only select who puts boots on and plays. We've got a fair few players injured who would probably come in, but, you know, adjusting for that, this is all he's got to select from. We can't open a cupboard and go, oh my God, there's a Richie McCaw sitting in there, there's a Martin Nonu sitting. Those players don't exist, okay? So is the circumstances going to be different this year because we've got a World Cup in terms of the way that people will behave towards him if it doesn't go well?
Well, yeah, because we can open a cupboard and get a new coach. There's one sitting down in Christchurch who would probably be pretty happy to take over if things do go pear-shaped, because you've got to remember the All Blacks have a tough start to the season, just like they did last year. You know, going over to Argentina against an Argentinian team that doesn't fear the All Blacks anymore. They've beaten them twice.
No team fears us, mate. That's the whole deal. No team fears us anymore.
And then they come back straight into a Bledisloe Cup. I'm not sure what Eddie Jones has done with the Wallabies, but I'm interested to find out. They might be better. And then home tests against the Springboks, who world champions. Again, like, it's been a while since they've played, but they're not. It's not going to be easy. There's no gimme games or series to start off this year, so we may well be looking at a similar kind of record if the All Blacks don't get it right in these first tests. And like I said, there is a coach sitting there literally waiting to take over, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind to be given a contract extension by moving it forward a few months. You know what I mean?
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.